Do you love someone with dementia? Eventually, things get a little worse. What do you do? How do you handle a situation where you may or may not feel in control? Maybe you're out of control of the situation because your loved one, your patient, your client, whatever you want to call, is out of control. How do you handle difficult situations when someone you love has dementia? And let me just tell you, if you think now is bad, as you progress along, things could get worse. But I'm very fortunate. As you know, my parents are going through, they're in their end of life time. My mom's 90, my dad is 90. Well, my mom will be 90. My dad, no, my mom is 90 and my dad is 93. And I just absolutely love the passion that Dr. Natali Edmonds brings. She's PsyD to what she what she has given to the world, which is the Dementia Careblazers. I love the fact that at any time, any of us can tune in to what she's talking about, or create your own rhythm with your family members or those who you love, and kind of confirm through her. And I'm so grateful every time she comes on because I feel like I'm going through a coaching class for me and for all of you as well. So if there's someone that you love that has dementia, it's time for you to get some paper and a pencil or pen because we're going to learn and grow together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is your first time in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, I find myself looking at the internet. In the internet, you can find some of the things, self-help tools. But how blessed are we all when we stumble upon, and hopefully, if this is your first time hearing about Natali Edmonds, that you will go to her Facebook page or her website and start following her too, because she is doing so much wonderful work for all of us who are experiencing dementia. And she is here today. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Natali Edmonds is here to do just that. Welcome, Natali, to the classroom.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be back, Lillian.
And I'm excited that you're here. And every time you come on, I'm able to share about what's going on with my parents with you, and you're so loving and you receive it in such a generous way. I, being a problem solver, and I am the solution, which is what I always talk about in my brands, or I am the solution. I want to solve everything, but there's sometimes things are not solvable in that way, in the way I think it should be. So share a little bit about your background and what brought this passion in your life so that you can continue to give the way you do.
Yeah. So I'm a board certified geropsychologist. It means my training is in clinical psychology as a foundation, and I went on to get specialty training in geriatrics. I worked 13 years at a very large hospital doing everything around dementia, from doing the dementia testing to working with family members to helping the person with dementia, go through their own process in grief as they realize, they have this, condition that's going to get worse. And then through that, I became really frustrated with how long family members and patients had to wait for appointments, how many restrictions and limitations I had on how often I could see them, and how long those appointments could be. And so I started just posting videos online to help other people out there who might be waiting forever for appointments too, or might not have access to specialty care. And it turned into what Dementia Careblazers is today. So that's how I got started. And then it's more, personally for me, first with my mom who passed away in June 2022, and now currently with my dad. So it started with more of the professional and seeing a need in the hospital system. And then I feel like having gone through it personally and currently going through it personally, that's certainly added a layer of compassion and understanding I would have never been able to have if
Mhm.
it had just been through my hospital work. So I'm kind of coming at it from both angles at this point.
And you can feel that. I mean, the things that you talk about, there's a wonderful thing that happens when you're educated, but there's magic that happens when you're educated, plus you come from a place of knowing. Like I
Yeah, I
used
mean,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think it's one thing to have all the knowledge. I'm sure family caregivers without even professional experience feel this. It's like we can read all the books, we can read the blogs, listen to the podcasts, watch the videos and get all the tips. But when you're in the middle of it, or you're in the middle of the night and they're not sleeping, or they're, maybe having accidents on themselves and you're there cleaning them up, it's like all of a sudden it's not, this information is fine, but you have to deal with the emotions and how do you get through it while you're trying to live your own life and keep everything going. It's like nothing else. I don't think anything really can prepare you for that. And like you said, there's no solving that emotional piece in many
Yeah,
ways. It's like we have to just experience this and go through it. And
yeah.
hopefully, what I believe what we can do is we can grow through it.
Yeah. As I was getting ready, the memory just happened this last weekend where I was getting ready for a dinner party, and all of a sudden I had like 3 or 4 texts from my dad and my mom, my parents' caregiver. My dad kept calling out for me. Now, I hate that feeling, and I shared this with you, of this waiting for the shoe to drop type of thing. At any time we'll get that call, but I don't want to feel that way. I want to be excited about my parents still being alive, not dreading that moment when they die, because that's one moment compared to 365 moments that I could be, rejoicing with them. But at that moment, dropped what I was doing and I looked at, I called the caregiver, called the iPad because my dad was calling out for me. And I'm thinking, the first thought was that he's calling out for me because he needs to see me before he dies. That, I guess that's what was going on in my heart. And so I just immediately called. And the things that I normally do with him, because my dad at that moment was going in and out of consciousness. Maybe he was tired, but in my mind, oh my God, he's dying right here. What's that going to feel like? And I hated feeling that way, but at the same time, I had to take that same role of being strong and singing with my dad and doing all these things where my emotions wouldn't allow it. I couldn't do it anymore. And then my mom normally sings with me, and she didn't even remember the lyrics. And we sing this every single time. The song is Cielito Lindo. I always sing which is my beautiful sky. And he just couldn't do it. And I just couldn't stop or block my emotions. And I know that sometimes it's okay to block our emotions, but there are other times that we just need to let it go and experience the emotion later. At that moment, I just said to the caregiver, I can't do this right now. I'm too emotional. Can I call you back later? And I was sobbing. Robert thought that my dad had passed away, and that's why I was sobbing. And I'm just like, no, I just couldn't control my emotions. That was it. So, what advice do you give to someone that's going through very similar? I don't want to feel like my dad's going to die at any time, but I know it's going to happen. If you can share some tips before we start talking about these powerful tools, if
Yeah,
there's
no, there's a lot there. So, obviously, we know what the end picture is for everybody with dementia. I mean, it's the end picture for all of us too, but it's more present, more close when we're caring for somebody with dementia. They're going to die, they're going to have a progression. And so, it's natural that our fears and our worries and our anxieties are going to come up, especially if there's some sort of trigger in the environment, like the caregiver saying, oh my gosh, your dad's calling out for you. So just realize, let the human brain do what the human brain is going to do. Now, in the moment, if you find that this is really happening a lot and you don't want it to because we have lives and we have guests to entertain and jobs to work and other family members to care for, we can just catch ourselves doing that and let ourselves know, like, in this moment, this is what I'm doing. Like, go back to the present moment. There's nothing I can do about that right now. Let me focus my attention back on what's happening. So it's just that. Like, I think it would be unrealistic to set the goal that we will never have an anxiety or a worry or a fear about our
Mhm,
loved ones. I think
mhm,
when we think about them from time to time, that's going to happen. But it's more about you make a choice in the moment. What do you want to do when you realize it? Do you
mhm.
want to go down that path and stay with the worry and the fear and anxiety? Or do you want to try to refocus on the present moment, knowing that whether in the present moment you stay in fear and anxiety, or whether you decide to, shift your attention and focus on what you have in the
Yeah,
present moment at that time, regardless, it's not changing your loved one. It's not
yeah,
having an impact on your loved one. So we might as well choose the option that's going to allow us to be more present focused. But the other thing I would say to what you were saying, which is really important, is we're human beings and we're not robots. And while you make a really great point, like, we want in certain situations to put on our best face, especially for our loved ones and our
yeah.
parents when we're talking with them, our spouses or whoever it is, we don't want to show them all of those hard emotions we're feeling when we're, trying to sing to them and they don't remember the lyrics. We want to try to save that for later.
Mm,
But sometimes, because we're human beings and we have so much love and we're witnessing a change and we're realizing ourselves, oh my gosh, this might be the next decline,
mm.
we're going to have those reactions and those emotions. And it's a totally normal human thing to have. And don't judge yourself for
Yeah.
it. And I think the way you handled it was incredibly beautiful.
Mhm.
And, I love that we're not robots and we have these emotions. To me, it's just a testament of how much your love and care you do have for your parents.
Of course, of course. And no, it's one of those things where I didn't mind that my mom didn't know the words or my dad wasn't singing with me, is that I don't sing pretty when I'm crying. So that was like, no, I can't do both. And so I was counting on my mom to come up and she will belt out the tune and she wasn't even doing it. So there was no cover. I felt exposed. And those are the things that, once I let it go and I shift my mindset to do the entertaining, once the couples left my home, I called in a better place. I was ready. I was ready. And my dad was great. And, it's like you just never know what you're going to get. It's
Yeah.
just like Forrest Gump, life is a box of chocolates. You just don't know which one you're going to get. And my mom was singing too. And I was able to sing with my mom, sing with my dad, and that's the connection that I have with them now, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And
Yeah.
so I think that expectations can make us become burdened with sadness, and but it was what it was, and it was that I lost control of my emotions and I couldn't sing with him, which I just wanted to sing to him, but he was falling asleep and I'm like, oh my god, is he dying, right here in front of me? So I think that I lost it, and it's all in the mindset, and I do a lot of coaching on mindset. I'm like, snap out of it, and I just couldn't snap out of it. So but anyway, it was what it was, and then when I called back again, and like maybe 4 or 5 hours later, he was doing much better, and that just makes my heart, but I know it's going to happen. But there are challenges beyond, like, I get to talk to them, I get to visit them, but I get to go away. The caregivers, my sister who lives in very close in proximity, my parents are in their guest house. They're the ones that day in, day out get to see more. I get to see because I live farther away. So I can control it. What are some of the challenges as the caregiver starts, at the beginning, it might not be so bad. You could have a conversation, maybe 20 minutes, and then restart the conversation. What are some of the challenges that we need to be aware of first before we develop these tools? Because I've developed some great tools for them, but what are some global tools that might help us deal
Yeah.
with every case?
Yeah, I think the first thing to realize is maybe not so much of a tool, but a mindset.
Mhm.
And it's around this idea of expectations and just expecting that it's going to be hard at times. and there's going to be joy at times, and there's going to be times where we don't know what to do all of the time. Like that's just as we enter into caregiving, anybody who's been caregiving for at least 2 days knows there's going to be moments of stress and confusion and overwhelm and hard emotions. And so, by knowing that, truly, truly knowing that, when we are faced with that, then we realize this is part of the process. This is a natural part of the caregiving experience. I think we add a lot of suffering and hardship to ourselves when those naturally occurring hard moments come. And then we get frustrated or upset with ourselves that it happened, or that we broke down, or that we couldn't snap out of it in the moment, or that we didn't know what to do. And it's like that is something that's going to happen. It's like, for instance, if we were going to, I don't know, train for a marathon, we know there's going to be times when we're tired or sore, or we don't want to run, or we might not hit the workout the way we wanted to. It's just part of training for something long term. It's part of the process. We don't have to try to feel good about it, but we just realize this is what it looks like to show up and commit and dedicate to something hard. And for me, it's the same thing in caregiving. There's no such thing as like a perfect scenario or perfect caregiving. We're humans. We have to understand the hardships are going to happen. And when they do, we're not supposed to feel good about it, but we also don't have to beat ourselves up over it. We can just say, yep, this is the hard part. And sometimes those hard parts happen a lot, and they happen day after day, or maybe even hour after hour. And we realize this is what it feels like to show up for something hard. So I think
Yeah.
that's like the number one thing that we have to just truly understand at a deeper level, because I think, especially as we talk about tools, sometimes people, when they want tools, what they're thinking deep down is like, well, just tell me how to take away the pain, or
Yeah.
just tell me how to not have to feel this discomfort. And I'm here to tell you there are things we can do to help the caregiving journey and to help you feel better. Absolutely. But there's nothing that we're ever going to do to take away your feelings. So if you're feeling and you're caring for somebody that you love, it only makes sense that as you watch this person decline and struggle, of course, you're going to deal with sadness or anger or frustration or doubt or confusion, because it's somebody you love and you're watching this happen. I would never, ever in a million years try to tell somebody and work with somebody on how you should feel good the whole entire time. I
Yeah.
don't think that's
Yeah.
normal and that's natural. And the more we start to just talk about that and accept that, the easier these other tools will be to use. And the more
Mhm.
we can just allow ourselves to be like, this is what it really feels like to be a human who loves in a really hard situation.
Yeah, that it is true. It is true. That expectation that leads to suffering.
Yeah.
We do that to ourselves. And I remember immediately after hanging up with my mom and dad, having to shift gears. And I just recently a good friend of mine lost their parent, and they were the main caregiver, and they felt bad that maybe they lost their patience with them, and all these emotions started surfacing after the parent passed away. And I kept saying, you were a wonderful child of your parent. I want to be careful with how I say it, because I don't want to pinpoint who this person is, but the guilt that they felt because they weren't perfect all the time.
Right.
So that's great advice
W-
for you.
When my mom passed away, and I remember going to see her, at the funeral home, and I didn't know what I was going to, how I was going to respond. I'd never been in that position before. And I
Yeah.
remember walking up to the casket and looking at her, and just immediately, like, the tears flowed. And I just said, like, I'm so sorry for losing my patience with you, for, sometimes doubting you, for like, for not always being so patient. Like, it's just like immediately that was like everything that came out. And so there's a couple of things there. Like, one, we're just going to have our natural reactions. I didn't think that was going to happen, but that was like the very first thing that I
Interesting.
experienced.
Hmm.
And for people who do struggle with ongoing guilt and, these doubts and wishing they would have done things differently, I think it's important to, the self-talk. Like, if we're talking about tools, it's the self-talk we do after the fact. Is it true that I lost my patience sometimes with my mom? Absolutely. That's true. I can't deny it. But is it also true that I really just tried my best and with the situation that I was in and it was hard and like I'm not perfect and that's okay? That's true too. And so, when I get stuck in those loops, I can also tell myself, like, it's okay, Natalie, you're human. It happens. Nobody's perfect. And sometimes it's hard for us to talk that way to ourselves. So then we can just imagine, well, what would you tell somebody you really loved in that situation?
Mhm.
If your best friend or your spouse or your child was going through something with a lot of guilt and they were beating themselves up and they told you all this, would you say you should beat yourself up? That's
Yeah.
horrible. I can't believe you did that. No, you would never say that. So it's like,
No.
what would you say to somebody you cared about in the same situation? And it's literally practice and talking to yourself that way. Our
Mhm.
own self talk, it's our thoughts. They're the most powerful thing ever. So you're
Mm.
going to have the guilt or the negative thoughts or the uncomfortable thoughts pop up. It's okay. Not a sign we need to like do something to like erase them from our mind forever, but it's more about what are you going to say to yourself after you recognize that those are the thoughts in your mind in the moment.
Mm,
And
mm,
sometimes if it's really hard, it's okay to say like, it's okay that I feel this way right now. It's okay that this is what I'm thinking right now. Like if sometimes we try to push so quickly to get out of it because we're uncomfortable. And when we try to push too quickly, we stay stuck. And so
mhm.
you have to kind of feel it out if you're really struggling to like do that self-talk out. You can just say, you know what, it's okay that I feel this way right now. You don't have to make it mean you're a horrible person or beat yourself up or any of that. It's like, this is just my reality right now. And this is my experience right now. And it's okay.
I always start with the questions when I'm doing, I do a weekend workshop. And one of the questions I ask throughout is what do you get when you squeeze an orange? And the answer is orange juice. And the question is why? And the answer is because it was in there. That's what's in there.
Mhm,
And so when you saw your mom, those feelings of guilt were in there, whether you acknowledged them or not, but how beautiful that they came out and you were able
mhm,
to release them, get them out of
mhm,
you.
mhm.
And so I think that in a way, those emotions that come out, like I could have done better, I should have been more patient. If those emotions come up, I love how you say, okay, how would you advise somebody else? Would you say, oh, you're okay, you did great? I mean, most people wouldn't have done what this person has done for their
Right,
parent. And
right.
so, but how beautiful that you were able to release it naturally.
Yeah.
And then if you need to deal with those emotions later on and dissect them later on, but at that moment you allowed it to flow and you're able to move on. And so good for you. Good for you. We have to be self-cleaning ovens. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I have all the tools. I know all the info, like in terms of
Yeah.
like self-care and helping and getting out of hard times. But it doesn't mean I don't have them because we're human. So we all have them. So I just think that's such an important thing because people we get so uncomfortable with feeling uncomfortable. We're trying to get out of it. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, we're never going to outrun it. It's going to happen. What do we do when we feel it? And that will help you move.
I think that's just wonderful. Really great advice because that's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us. Let's put it out there so that you know that if it happens to you, for those of you who are watching today or listening later on or wherever it is, that hey, if it happens to you, just say, oh, Natalie said this is normal. And so I am just going to go through the process, let it flow, and so that I can let it go.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, now we're looking at, okay, like I know I don't, we didn't talk about this before, but this is something that I've been doing with my mom, and I've been doing this for quite some time. And the caregivers were going, wow. And it may only happen with my mom. I don't know if this is true for all dementia patients, but maybe you can help us here. My mom gets melancholic. She has sundowners, or sometimes so she'll think someone did something to her, and she'll start crying. And they usually call me, the caregivers call me, because they know I can calm my mom down. So they call
Mhm.
me, and I'm sure they call other people too. I'm just not saying that I'm the one that they go to. But when my mom is like that, or I call and she's been crying, or I visit, so I'll ask her, tell me what's going on, mommy. Why are you crying? And she'll give
Mhm.
me this story that doesn't make sense. And
Mhm.
then I'll say, oh, I understand. I'm so sorry that you're not feeling well. But you know what? I love your smile. I
Mhm.
love you're always smiling. And then I start visualizing what I want to see in my mom. And she goes, you do? and she starts smiling, and then we start singing, and then the melancholy goes away.
Yeah.
So is that unique to my mom, or is this something that you can do with anybody with dementia? Is just like project what you want to see after you kind of identify, their feelings and acknowledge them, and then you kind of like set them up like, oh, I love, I love your smile. I
Yes.
love that you're always
Yeah.
so happy. I always say that to my mom.
Oh, well, first of all, I love that you found something that works for your mom and that works really well. And the one thing I want to highlight that I really love is that you asked her to share more
Yeah.
about what she was experiencing. A lot of times people, family members, especially, or even professional caregivers, when they see the person with dementia sad or tearful or in distress, we want to try to redirect them right away. But in that moment, we miss an opportunity for human to human connection. This person's in pain. Let's learn a little bit more about what might be going on. Now,
Mm.
she tells you a story that didn't make much sense or wasn't real, but in her world, it was
It
real. And it just
was.
gives you more information about what she's going through.
Yeah.
It helps build that connection. I like to think about it, if anybody in our life was sad about something that we weren't able to fix, we wouldn't just say, "Oh, do you want a cup of coffee?" We would hear them out. "Oh, that sounds horrible. That must be hard," right?
Yeah.
So we can take these same approaches with people with dementia. So first of all, I just love that part of it. I want to highlight it so people don't miss that that's a really great approach. In terms of your question, can we do this with everybody who has dementia? You can certainly try, but the big message is that not every person with dementia reacts the same to every technique or approach. People
Mm.
with dementia are individual, they have individual styles, it's filtering through their individual brain. So, for some people, for many people, your approach would work beautifully. For other people, it might not work beautifully and it might make the person with dementia more upset. And I always say, the best way to know if your approach is good is to see how your loved one responded to your approach. Now, your mom is communicating to you, she loves your approach. It gets her to smile, makes her interact more. And, there's really no way to know ahead of time whether an approach will work or not until you try it.
Mm.
And so there's, no harm in giving that approach a try. And then if you get feedback that maybe that didn't work for that person, we want to, well, what can I change? What can I adjust? Maybe I don't talk about her smile. Maybe I talk about her clothing, or maybe, I don't talk about her physical appearance at all. Maybe I let her talk more about her experience. Maybe I bring out the emotion she's talking about and ask her, what do you normally do when you're scared? When I'm scared, I do this. Do you think that would help you? Maybe we can do that together. There's millions and millions of different ways to respond. I think it's really important we realize that there's never one approach for every single person with dementia, even if the people with dementia have the same symptom. They're not going to, they might not respond to the same approach. So it's very individual in that way.
Yeah, and with my mom, it's so funny that it works so well with her that I sang the song that we normally sing with I sing with her. My dad's song is different, the one I sing with my mom. And then at the end, I always say, I love your smile, mommy. You look like a princess. And it's the caregivers say that when they hear it, and she told me that they played it like 7 or 8 times, and she said to the caregiver, "You need to tell Lily to stop singing." I
I
thought that
love
was
it.
so funny. But
Yeah.
there are moments where my mom, but of course she thinks I'm singing to her on the phone or whatever it is. And they've used it, and then they saw how I love your smile, you look like a princess, you're so happy all
Mhm.
the time. And that shifted her mood. Now you're right. That may not work with my dad. My dad is more quiet, and
Mhm.
there's not a lot of conversation. It's like, how you doing, daddy? Good. So you get those few little things, but with my dad it's totally different than with my mom. So I
Right.
can see how case by case, but I love the idea of just trying.
Yeah,
You don't know how they're going to react until you actually find yourself doing that. So
exactly.
what are some of those other tools that we can maybe put in our toolkit and try just in case?
So this would be tools for really hard moments.
Yes, for hard
Yeah.
moments.
So, we could just in really hard moments, if it's safe to do so, I just want to give permission to all the caregivers out there. If it is safe to do so, meaning the person with dementia is not an imminent physical harm, you could just walk away. Like, honestly, give yourself like sometimes we're looking for these really big tools. We can walk away for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes, and then come back and try again later. Put that in your toolbox because viable. That's a viable option. The other thing I would say is like sometimes in the moment, we have to just do what we need to do in the moment. There's no leaving, there's no whatever. And this is where tools that you do outside of direct caregiving really come in handy. And I want to challenge anybody who's feeling like, I just don't have any time for anything else. These are, you might be able to do them with your loved one in the same room. You might be able to do something for 5 minutes, but whatever it is, like take a time to reflect on what actually brings you a little bit joy or gives you a little bit of relief? Is it reading, praying, journaling, meditating, dancing, playing pickleball, going for a walk, looking at the stars, petting your animal, going through picture album, painting? Literally, we could come up with all the things we hear traditionally about tools, right? And it's just a matter of how do I actually incorporate this into my life in a way that would work? Do I do it before I step out of my room in the day? Do I do it while I'm eating lunch? Do I do it when my loved one's watching, cat videos on YouTube and I'm in the living room with them? Like we get to think about how do we realistically do it, and don't just make it like, oh, that would be nice if it could happen. It's important for your own care because what you do for yourself outside of those difficult moments can be helpful for you and keeping you calmer, more patient, more compassionate when you're faced with a difficult moment. So I'd really encourage everybody to like play around with that. I took a class yesterday at my gym that I hadn't taken in probably 6 months. It just stumbled on like, oh, I haven't done this in forever. I kind of feel like doing something different. And I walked away like, why haven't I gone? This is the best thing ever. And so now it's like, okay, how do I really make this happen? I might not be able to do it every week. I'm not going to get myself down on it, but like this class was so beautiful. Is it possible to incorporate 10 minutes in my home when I'm, have the time? So I think that's important to think about for caregivers.
I like the starting with yourself because if your tank is empty, it's really hard to drive your car,
I
or
know.
you can't go as far as if your tank is full. That's what I'm hearing you say. Take that time. For me, my time for myself is during the day, the morning. First fruits was what I call it. And I do my little routine in the morning because once I sit at my desk, once I start the world, it's like those Calgon moments. You're too young for that, but the Calgon moments, take me away type of thing. Evening time as could be a better other than the beginning and the end, but to me, starting off fresh for me is what works for me. If I don't plan it, and I used to, my grandmother used to always say to me, fix your bed first thing in the morning. Fix your bed first thing in the morning. And that kind of was instilled in me. And I thought, if I don't fix my bed first thing in the morning, why bother even fixing my bed? I'm just about to go out to bed. I'm good. So I learned to fix my bed first thing in the morning, or else, some people don't even fix their bed.
Yeah.
So, but figure out what the first fruits are for everybody. For
Yeah.
me, it's the morning. For somebody else might be, lunch or taking a break during that. But I love the permission, giving yourself permission to walk away. I love that
E-
aspect of it because we feel like we are obligated to
mhm.
see it through all the way to fruition. So if somebody is physically aggressive, if the dementia patient is physically aggressive to the caregiver, at what point does the caregiver say, we can't do that?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Every single caregiver, your safety is priority. You have permission to put your safety as a top priority. You can literally walk away in that moment. You can do what you need to do to keep yourself safe. We don't have to keep staying in that position, especially when you're worried about your own physical safety. Because what happens if something were to happen to you? Then
Mhm.
what?
Yeah.
Then nobody's there to care for your loved one, or you can't even call to get help yourself. So those are extreme examples, but they actually happen. And I just think sometimes our own ideas and beliefs stop us from doing what we naturally need to do. And it's okay to walk away for a minute. It's okay to leave and remove yourself, especially if you're in danger. And it doesn't mean that's our only plan and that's all we do.
Mm.
There's things we can do follow up. We can call the doctor. We can evaluate when we're in a calmer state of what led up to that. Was there something, that triggered it right beforehand? What was around? What happened during that day? We do all of those things after the fact. But in the moment, we could put our safety a priority. It's absolutely something that all of us should do.
Absolutely. And it's taking ownership for yourself. Thank you, Natalie, for that. And I want to shift the conversation a little bit for those of you, for you know that this is where we take ownership for our life. You've got to be your own advocate. You've got to be your own MD, your own medical detective. There's so many different ways that you can take your life back. And even as a caregiver, and I'm loving this conversation because many times we just don't know because we think that this person is acting on its own accord and its own will, but they really don't know what they're doing. So it's not like you could have a conversation with them about how they made you feel or how they treated you or anything like that, because this is a one-sided thing. You've got to be your own self-cleaning oven. You've got to be your own your own advocate at these times. And I love all these tips that Natalie is sharing today. And so I want to encourage you to share this video. For those of you who are listening, can you relate? Do you know somebody? Share this video. This is a way that you can take ownership and help somebody. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com. And while you're there, please subscribe to my website and all my channels as well. Just let them, just give me a thumbs up or ring the bell, whatever it is, subscribe to all these social media platforms. And we're going to be talking about that. I want to shift that, some of the technical advantages too. We'll talk to Natalie in a bit, but I want to encourage you to, while you're there, check out my sponsors, support our sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. And, you can go to my Shop Now bag. You can go to past events. There's so many different ways that that we present these classes for free so that you can educate yourself, empower yourself to live the life that you want to live, even if somebody's relying on you. So at whenyouneedafriend.com, some of the different ways that you can help out grow the classroom is by going to the Shop Now bag and or checking out some of our past workshops that we've done. You can become an enrolled student in the classroom, and whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever the case might be, of your time, your talent, your treasure, again, just sharing this, making comments, sharing, do you relate? Can you relate to this conversation? Is this something that you've ever heard, before? And I just want to, thank Natalie for coming into the classroom today, because it's hard to have these conversations because some people don't understand what's happening. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate about this conversation is because it's happening to me. I could, if I didn't have this experience, I might say, yeah, just bottle it up. Not as a coach. I would never say that to you as a coach, but some other friend might say that to you. So I want to encourage you to go to careblazers.com. That's careblazers.com. When you go there, all her social media is there, and her Dementia Careblazers on YouTube is amazing. Lots of resources that you can cling on to when you need that extra help. Now, Natalie, do you offer private courses, coaching, anything else that you offer on your website?
Yeah, we have a comprehensive program called the Care Collective where we come together. We have support groups every week. We have expert dementia experts. We do Q&As every week where people can submit questions, get answers and guidance. Private member area where we have bonuses and training programs available 24/7, whether you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out what to do to get your loved one to bathe, or you're trying to
Mhm.
overcome overwhelm, or you're just trying to get more help that actually helps you. We have all of that inside of one program, and they can learn more about that on our website.
Wonderful. Thank you. And again, that's careblazers.com. I mean, it's nice to have someone that has been, and I always say God sent her first. She dealt with it not only as in her career, but with her parents, and now with her father, her mother, then now with her father. And so not only do you have the education behind Natalie, but you also have the personal stories and the care that you have given your parents as well. So good on you, Natalie. Thank you so much for that and
Thank you.
for stepping out and sharing all this information when nobody really is. So thank you very much.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And so, what are some other things that you would want to make a caregiver aware, and you can just take it from there?
Yes. So one of the things that really stands out, continuing on from our previous conversation, is don't let your ideal desires stop you from experiencing any of your desires. So, for example, if we're talking about self care tools and things to do, I mean, I'm sure many of us would love to go on a vacation or would love to go to the spa or would love to have somebody come in for an entire day so you can just nap in your bed. But we might not have that right now. And so sometimes when we're talking about tools to manage difficult moments as a caregiver, we sometimes block out even the conversation. Like sometimes people are like, I don't even want to talk about self care again because it's like, what? I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. But a lot of times we're getting stuck on our mind because we're thinking, well, I can't do the ultimate thing I really, really want to do. That's okay. I hope one day you will be able to. But for the time being, don't let that stop you from enjoying the mini moments or the micro moments you can be enjoying right now. Whether it's a podcast while you're getting ready, some good music while you're getting ready, there are moments to inject, opportunities all day long into your life that would bring about a little bit more uplifting and positivity. But it requires us to not let the ideal stop us from even experiencing it. So I think that's just an important thing I want to highlight.
Yes, absolutely. And so as you know, I talked about the internet and you being on social media and YouTube and bringing this information. What are some other resources that someone can turn to where they need more tools in their toolbox, and they want to be prepared? Are there any resources that you can offer for them?
Yeah, we do offer, it's over 60 pages. It's called the Careblazers Survival Guide. It's 100% free. And it
Wow.
really goes over what I consider to be the basic things every single caregiver needs to know to kind of help survive the caregiving journey in the best way possible.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
just a free download. You can go to the website and download it. The other thing would be, like you mentioned, our YouTube channel has hundreds and hundreds of free videos. We put one out every single week, and they're just micro doses of like, this is what you can do in this situation if you're struggling, or this is how you can manage caregiver anger, or this is how you can manage anger if the person with dementia is angry, or this is maybe why they don't recognize you, but they recognize the family member who barely comes by. So all of these strange symptoms and things, I feel like, even though, like you mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, we can't solve everything,
Mm-mm.
for those things that we can't solve, sometimes it's helpful to just understand the mechanism or why it's happening in the first place, because it's so easy to personalize all these symptoms when really what's happening is this brain is having some misfires and miscommunications and breakdowns, and it's showing up in this way. And
Mhm.
it's important we don't interpret that to mean, oh, they don't love me as much, or I didn't do as good job, or they always love the other sibling more, even though they don't help out as much. We do all these
Oh, the
things to
stories,
ourselves.
yeah.
Right. And so it's important to, even if it's a situation we can't solve or take away, understanding, oh, that's what the name of that is called. Oh, that's a common symptom people have with dementia. Oh, that's not denial. A lot of people don't believe they have dementia when they have it. So I would say inform yourself as much as possible. Go to YouTube. It's very helpful. Our channel has free videos, but also don't overwhelm yourself. Like allow yourself to go through seasons just like nature goes through seasons. I go through seasons where I want to consume all the information. It's like I need more. I need to understand what's going on. I'm having a
Mhm.
hard time with this. And I go through seasons where it's like I can't take another thing. Like I just need to exist. I just need to get through. I just need to survive. It's like my winter.
Yeah.
And so allow yourself to do that as well. Take a break from some videos or information if you need to. Come back to it when you need to. Like give yourself permission. It doesn't need to look any one way. It just needs to be the way that supports you the best. And the way you know that is like tuning into yourself and how you're feeling as you're going through the process.
Very good. Now, before we move on to another question that I have, any other tools for tough times that you can offer?
So I would say we've talked about talking to yourself, having activities and things that you do, not letting your ideals stop you from experiencing, things that are accessible to you. I would say having people, like having a person, something you can talk to, you can vent to, and being open with them about what you need in the moment. It can literally be, I just want to talk. I don't want any advice. Please don't solve this for me. I want to just say
Vent.
all this,
Yeah.
and I want to say it raw, and I don't want to have to filter myself. Can you please like say that? Or if you're looking for solutions, you can say you're looking for solutions. But sometimes just having another person, a sounding board, maybe even somebody who's not in the family or connected to it, so you can just be yourself and say how you feel,
Mm.
that can be extremely, emotionally releasing and helpful.
Yeah, that is so important because I could always jump in and solve people's problems. That's my strength, but it's also my weakness. I understand that. And
Yeah.
so my husband and I, when he would come home and he would tell me certain things, I was like ready to fix. And he would say, "No, I don't need for you to fix it. I just need to vent." So then we instituted like, okay, before you start talking to me, can you tell me what you want? But I learned to ask the question, do you want me to listen? Or do you want me to give you some feedback? And if they,
Yeah.
no, 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 I just want to listen, then that's all. So we as
Yeah.
friends, the person that is receiving the venting, we as friends, we also need to ask, do you want to, are you just venting or do you want me to share, my
Yeah.
thoughts on this? So
Yeah.
yeah, we need to, it takes a village. It takes a village. And
And
I
you could
know,
probably relate to this, but it's like I feel this way. It's like I have the tools, I know the strategies, I know how to get myself out of the funk, but sometimes I don't want to. Like sometimes I literally just want to sit in it and like fester, you know? And so sometimes just realizing like, can you just be this person and just let me say all this stuff that I'm
you need to get
constantly
it out.
monitoring myself. I'm
Yeah.
constantly like shutting it down. It's like, no, let me just get this out.
Yeah, yeah, you just you need to get it out of you because if not, if it remains in you, then it's that energy it stays in and that it turns into this ball of dis-ease.
Mhm.
It's like, I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm sure you have too, that a lot of disease starts with an emotional trauma or a trigger that without being dealt with, the body tries to deal with it and holds on to different things, but then eventually if you don't release it, if you don't deal with it, you end up with some form of autoimmune condition, diabetes, lung or heart condition because your heart is broken and our body responds to how we feel. And
Yeah.
it's just trying to help us get rid of it. But what ends up happening is a disease is diagnosed and then we stop. We don't think that this is an emotion that needs to come out. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful to have again like I was saying, I know that I should let these things go, and I know it's okay to cry. It's just like that self-talk, that
Yeah.
self-evaluation that
Yeah.
we would never talk that way to anybody else,
Yeah.
but we
And I'll
do it
give
to
one more
ourselves.
quick tool that
Mhm.
practical people can practice because I'm practicing it and it's quite hard because we know that our human brain is more negative. Like it's just naturally that way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mhm,
So one of the things that I've been practicing and I would encourage caregivers to do, and it'll be really difficult, is just to like at the end of every day, whether it's like a notes app on your phone or a little notebook you have, would be to think back and say like, what is something like I am super like proud of myself for this day or something I accomplished, something I
mhm,
gained, something that way. Because now you're starting to train your brain to look for what it's not looking for and what it doesn't see. And initially, if it's like my experience, it's like, I don't really think I achieved much on this day, or I don't think I really did anything in this day. But the thing is, we all have, and it's just a matter of looking at it in a different way. So, like, let's say, for example, I lost my patience with my dad today. I might be reflecting back on my day thinking, oh, that was horrible. But maybe it's also like I'm catching myself in a version of myself I don't want to be as much. And I'm
mhm,
starting to get familiar with the version I do want to be.
mhm,
Or I didn't, I was able to keep my patience a couple minutes longer than normal. You're starting to reframe and it's a new perspective
mhm.
on how you're going through your day. And I think it's an important skill to have because we naturally, I think, as caregivers, are always focused on what we're not doing good enough.
Of
And so
course.
practicing this thing, and then especially if you keep it in one notebook or one notes app, you can go through and start reading, especially on those low moments of, wow, like I really am doing great. Like, this is a hard situation. I'm making lots of strides.
Yeah, yeah. A gratitude journal.
Yeah.
The people that I coach, I always say that they need to start a gratitude journal because you are right. We tend to look at the negative side, what went bad, and so my job is to get them to that other side where they can look at what went well. What am I grateful for?
Right.
What went right? How can I learn from this? And everything just turns out to be a teachable moment.
Yeah.
Like I learned from, jumping and running that my dad was calling that I need to, still prepare myself mentally for, just being there. But you know what? It is what it is. And so you
Yeah.
just move on. You just move on. Any other tools that you can share? You got some great ones,
Real
girl.
quick, because of the gratitude journal, it reminded me I have something called a feel good binder. And
Uh-huh.
so, one of the things that I think many caregivers could use would be when somebody gives them a compliment, somebody says something nice about what they're doing, or
Mm.
that, jot that down, remind yourself of it, don't forget it. And then you can review that. So, like when people send me cards in the mail or a thank you about how I've helped them on their journey, or somebody said something nice to me about my mom. These things are things that can easily go in passing or even in the trash can or a drawer you never look again. But I put these in a binder, and you could put it in a box, whatever. And I could just pull that out on really hard moments too. And I could just go through and be reminded of ways I'm making an impact that I've totally forgot about.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Any more? Do you have any
All right.
more?
I thought I've got plenty. They could go to YouTube and watch tons, but really, I really do think that the main message I want to say, because we're talking about gratitude journals and, there's meditation and journaling and all these things. All of those are tools to help you through this human experience. None of them are ever going to get rid of the human experience of feeling sadness and grief and those things from time to time. So just want to we can't meditate our way or medicate our way out of being human. So just realizing those emotions are still normal. These things are to help us get through it.
You say that. You say emotions are normal, and we say that to other people,
Mhm.
but saying it to ourselves, that's the challenge right
Yeah.
there. I would say
Right.
that that's probably the biggest challenge to not be as critical on ourselves as we are on other people. It's like we're more critical on ourselves. And so we need to, maybe come up with maybe a mantra, a mantra that we tell ourselves, I did the
Yeah.
best that I could. I love what I do. I did the best that I could. Yes, sometimes I'm emotional, and now it's time to just be grateful that,
Yeah.
tomorrow's another day and that I'll do better tomorrow or
Yeah.
whatever. But that judgment, we're
Yeah.
constantly judging ourselves. Worse than judging others, we judge ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's really good. So if I hear anything from you today, of many of the things that I jotted down, it's to really be gentle on ourselves and just allow everything to
Mhm.
flow. Any final words before we go, as we
Y
wrap up our conversation today? Any final thoughts that you could, any final seeds that you would like to plant before we go?
Yeah, we're probably going to feel some sort of discomfort about half of our lives. I mean, just reflect back on the life that you've had even before you were caregiving. There's always been challenges, always been discomfort. So it makes sense that we just start to make peace that that's part of the human existence and part of what we're experiencing. And sometimes if, you're really struggling for an affirmation or self-talk to get you through, you can literally just say like, this is being human, or this is what it feels like to be alive, or this is okay. We don't have to try to fix ourselves out of everything all the time. And just allow yourself to be like, or just simply say, this is hard. And we could just let it be. And I think the more we get comfortable with our own discomfort, the less discomfort we feel. But that's the ironic part. Are so quickly wanting to get out of discomfort that the discomfort sticks around and we never build the muscle of knowing that we get through it. But for our whole lives, all of us have always gotten through all of it because here we are listening to this, show right now. And
Mhm.
so realizing all feelings are temporary, we can get through it. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And because I will likely feel uncomfortable at least half more of my life, let's start to get familiar with what it is. And when it happens, we can say, oh, this is what it feels like to be sad, or this is what it feels like to be uncomfortable. And it's all okay.
Oh, you know what? It's such great advice, Natalie. And I always say that, good feelings, bad feelings, that you'll say, oh, this is the worst day of my life, or this is the best day of my life. Those feelings go away. It's like, and then you can go on with your life. So, it's not permanent. Those feelings are not permanent. They will go away. But to set yourself up for success, like you're talking about with a gratitude journal or a feel good journal, whatever it is that we need to do, we just need to do it. So thank you so much for everything that you do, Natalie, to help people during these very difficult times. Talk about a tool for going through rough times. Go to Careblazers and YouTube, Dementia Careblazers or careblazers.com to help you go through this. And there are other resources for respite if you need that. And I'm sure that you can find all that information in Natalie's website as well. So thank you so much, Natalie, for everything that you do. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure.
And for those of you who are tuned in today, share this video with a friend. I am sure that you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that is dealing with this horrible diagnosis called dementia. And there's different kinds of dementias as well. So if you find yourself in this, please share it, and that way you help with the classroom. And go check out Dementia Careblazers in YouTube as well, and like Natalie. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing out there to care for your loved ones. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Natali Edmonds wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.